Okay, what up ladies and gents, it's your favorite Asian robot, and hopefully one day I will be your favorite Diablo 4 creator. Okay, what I'm gonna do today is talk about the Barbarian build for early and mid game, but unlike the other builds that I've done, this one does require at least one legendary aspect. Okay, this is something you can get from a dungeon, so you can obtain it very easily. Okay, but I'll explain that a little bit later. Okay, now before we get into this build, I have to first talk about weapon expertise. The Barbarian is unique in that their class special is one where at level 15 you can pick one particular technique which will be applied when using any weapon. All right, this will work in conjunction with, let's say you're using a two-handed bludgeoning, like a two-handed mace, right? If your technique is two-handed axe expertise, then it'll apply both of these at the same time, which is why for this particular build you will need your two-handed sword expertise, while your actual weapon will be the two-handed mace. Okay, but in order to take advantage of this, your early and mid-game build is going to be different from the final mid-game build that I'm going to demonstrate and show to you guys. Okay, I'm going to teach you guys the leveling build and also how to improve your two-handed sword expertise. But once you get this to level 10, okay, your build will change to the finalized version. All right, so now that you understand that, okay, I'm going to go through the build step by step. And please understand that this is going to be a bit more of a detailed explanation, so pay attention to what I'm saying. I'll demonstrate the early game first, then the mid game, okay, and then the finalized version, which will, you will carry on working with until you hit World Tier 3. Okay, here we go. All right, cam is removed. Let's get into this. We're going to refund all skill points, as we always do. All right, so when you're leveling up, the first thing you're going to choose is Lunging Strike with Enhanced Lunging Strike. All right. Whenever it damages a healthy enemy, it will heal you. Okay. So this is a little bit of early game sustain. All right. You will next be taking Hammer of the Ancients. Now, I've tried a Whirlwind build. I found it weak, because compared to Hammer of the Ancients, Hammer of the Ancients will let you smack down elites pretty quickly, and it honestly works better in my opinion. Okay, Enhanced Hammer of the Ancients is what you're going for, and after that you will go for the Furious Hammer of the Ancients. Okay, this is very, very crucial because this is how you will help it to do extra damage. Okay, now you're gonna go back to the first tree and get the Battle Lunging Strike, which will allow you to inflict bleed damage. This is crucial for later on. Okay, now what you're gonna do here in this next tree is, please ignore this because of the item contribution, but of course this is one of the skills you'll need. Now you're gonna go for number 1, Rallying Cry. Why is this important? Because Rallying Cry will increase your movement speed, make you unstoppable, crucial to survive, which is crucial to survival, obviously. All right. Then make yourself unstoppable with Rallying Cry. And last but not least, okay, I highly recommend that you take Tactical Rallying Cry, which is much better in the early stages of the game when you're leveling. Your Fortify bonuses are not going to help you until the late game. Okay, so this is far better in the early game. Now, to be fair, late game you can apply this as well. It depends on how quickly you're fortifying. All right, but if you don't find yourself fortifying quickly enough, get strategic. Otherwise, stick with tactical. All right. Next skill. You're gonna want Ground Stomp. Why? This is another very, very solid Fury generator. Okay, you can here, Tactical Ground Stomp. This is to generate fury fast so that you can smack down with Hammer of the Ancients even more, taking advantage of the Furious Hammer of the Ancients. All right. Now the early game build is going to end at 21 points. Okay. So we've spent 12 so far. We can carry on a little further. Next, get your leap skill. Why? Leap is very useful again as a fury generator. Enhanced leap and then power leap. This is how you generate fury really fast so you can use Hammer of the Ancients as often as possible to smack down your elites. And you want to have your hammer, you want to have your fury maxed out because of the enhanced, because of the Furious Hammer of the Ancients. You really want to have your fury maxed out, hammer, maxed out, hammer, maxed out, hammer. That's the way it goes. So these generators are all designed to play into that and feed into that, allowing you to kill off elites really quickly. Your AoE damage is going to suffer early game, but honest to God, it should not be a problem because Lunging Strike is pretty powerful. Okay? Now, what you're going to do here is that you're going to need 1 point to get into this tree. Oh, look at that. It's off center. Huh. That's weird, isn't it? But anyway, you're going to need 1 point to get into this tree. Okay. You're going to put it first into Thorns, Outburst, all right? And then, what you're going to do next, all right, before you pick up this, is you need to grab Tough as Nails, and then you're going to grab Hamstring as a passive. You only need 1 point in this, because the slow effect is not important. Rather, this slow effect, this 10% slow effect, is just to constantly apply crowd control from all of your bleed effects. Now, how many bleed effects do you have? Lunging Strike has an innate bleed effect, right? Next, you get bleeds from your Thorns, which is very helpful. On top of that, once you have enough of your two-handed sword expertise, you can, and once you have enough crit rate, you can even do a little switcheroo. You can actually swap over Lunging Strikes, Battle Lunging Strike, over for the Combat Lunging Strike, because you don't really need this extra bleed damage, to be perfectly frank. Alright? The bleeds are not really for inflicting damage. The bleeds are just to slow the enemy, so that you can benefit from your character having things like damage to crowd-controlled enemies, damage to slowed enemies, damage to close enemies, and I will usually go for crowd-controlled enemies rather than close enemies, but yeah, damage to slowed enemies, close enemies, bleeding enemies, crowd-controlled enemies. Like, it gives you so many options to enhance your damage, which is what you want. All right. So that is the main reason why you have 1 point in Hamstring to work on all your bleed effects. Next, you're going to need to come down to this tree, but you've got 3 points left to spend for your early game. Where do you spend these 3 points? My honest recommendation, okay, is to put everything into Endless Fury. That brings you to 21, and that ends the early game build, okay? Why? Endless Fury helps you generate 15% more fury when using two-handed weapons, and with this build you are only going to be using two-handed weapons. Now, before we go into the mid-game explanation, I'm also going to show you a little something important. When you go to the skill assignment screen, okay, and you hover over these, take note that you can cycle the available weapon that you're going to use. All right, make sure it is always set to your slicing weapon for Lunging Strike. Same thing for leap, slicing weapon. Hammer of the Ancients only has one option, which is bludgeoning. So by using this setup, you can level up your expertise. You have to stick with this until two-handed expertise is maxed, okay? You must get this to level 10 because it is crucial. After that, you can set After that, you will change over your starting skill, but I'll demonstrate that to you at the end of this video, okay? But later on, you can set all of your abilities, okay, under skill assignment. You will set all of them to the bludgeoning weapon instead, okay? Because everything is going to be focused on the bludgeoning weapon. Now, for the Barbarian, the other thing that I'm going to mention is that when it comes to the damage per second, you only have to worry about the damage per second from the slicing weapon early game and the bludgeoning weapon early game. Same for the mid game until you max out your technical expertise, after which when you're only using the two-handed mace, only the DPS from this matters, which means that for the other 3 weapons, you focus on stats. You will look for stats that are like damage to slowed enemies, damage to crowd control enemies, and you don't have to care about the DPS. The DPS can be low, but what you need are all these beneficial effects to stack, because these will constantly apply, but only the DPS, the damage per second from the weapon you are actively using is what applies in combat. Keep this clearly in mind when you select your weapons, alright? Because eventually, the finalized version of the build will only focus on the two-handed mace, okay? Great. Now we're going to get into the mid-game explanation. Again, I know this was long, but I promise you it's worth it, because this is how you understand the full character. Okay, now, for the mid-game build, coming again back to where we were before, alright, your next bit of focus should be on the following, alright? I personally recommend that you max this with 3 points. Pit Fighter, you deal 9% increased damage to close enemies and gain 6% distant damage reduction. This is so crucial because it stops ranged enemies from absolutely murking you with all due haste, alright? You don't want that to happen. Next, what you're going to focus on is your ult. Call of the Ancients, Prime Call of the Ancients, Supreme Call of the Ancients. Okay, you are now at 27 points. Next, your sustain. Tempered Fury, Invigorating Fury, and max this out. Every time you spend 100 Fury, you will get back 9% of your maximum life. Okay, this is so easy to do. But just so you know, these two skills have to kind of work in conjunction together. All right? So until this point, you are not going to have a lot of sustain. If you need to level up first before getting to this point, do so. But this is what I would do. Okay? Following on from this, what do? You've got 2 more skill points you need. You're going to start prepping, okay? Wallop, 1 point. Then 1 point here into concussion. Skills using bludgeoning weapons will have a 10% chance to stun enemies for 3 seconds, or up to 15% chance when using a two-handed bludgeoning weapon. Okay? Take note, however, that you are going to be maxing this out, because later on in the build, you will be switching over purely to two-handed weapons. Again, I'll demonstrate that. But now you've unlocked your key passive, please go for Unbridled Rage. Core skills will now deal 135% increased damage, but will cost 100 times more fury. This means that your Hammer of the Ancients is now going to cost 70 fury, but that's okay. You will only ever hammer down at maximum fury anyway. And this is why all these fury generators are so important. Okay? Now, for the mid-game build, we're going to go up to 44 points, which means we've got 10 points left to spend. Where do you spend them? First and foremost, my honest recommendation, okay, is to start by working on this. No Mercy. Get this to at least 2 ranks, okay? A 3rd rank if you can help yourself. But I put 2 ranks in here first because this was just enough to get my crits going without taking away from the rest of the build, which I needed to focus on. Alright, you will still be focusing on your passives because next is Thick Skin. This is to get you started on Fortify. Alright? You need to start getting used to fortifying quickly. Now, where are the remainder of your 5 points going to be spent? The remainder of your 5 points are going to be spent maxing out Hammer of the Ancients. Okay, this is going to be your bread and butter for dealing with elites. And then I would put 1 point into Imposing Presence. Or if you feel that you survive more than enough, put your point into Swiftness. Okay? And just to show you where my build is at right now, I've got 1 point in here. I have maxed out Swiftness so I can clear dungeons, things like that faster. I have maxed out Concussion. Okay? And with my remaining 2 points, I chucked them into Counteroffensive. And that is about it. I'm going to max out Counteroffensive. Defensive stance, I'm going to max out last if I have the space. I'm probably going to max out imposing presence because max life is super crucial. And I might get a little bit of martial vigor if I have time left over, if I have points left over. But again, this is only helpful against elites, so I wouldn't put more than 2 ranks into this unless you're really dying hardcore. Then you might have to take off an offensive skill. Same with No Mercy. No Mercy, I am probably going to put it up to 3 ranks, but I will actually gradually shift the points off into more defensive abilities or other abilities when I no longer need this, because as your crit rate goes up, you don't really need the extra here because this is an additive bonus. So it'll just add on to whatever crit rate you already have. And if you're already having like 25%, you usually don't need more than this to be effective in combat. But honestly, it's your choice. You can keep this if you like. Okay, now I'm going to explain and demonstrate what you're going to do. Once you have maxed out your two-handed sword expertise, and the reason mine is not maxed at this point is because I actually switched builds halfway. I know, bad of me. But that's because I was trying the whirlwind build early and it didn't work out. Here's the finalized version of what this build should actually look like. Instead of lunging strike, you're actually going to use bash. Why bash instead of lunging strike? Because bash, okay, damaging a stunned enemy with bash grants you 10% fortify, double this amount when using a two-handed weapon. You fortify so quickly with bash that it is insane. This then allows you to use something like battle bash or combat bash. Combat bash will guarantee an overpower, but battle bash is good for generating fury really, really fast. So my recommendation is play with both and see which helps you more. Because if you can guarantee an overpower on the Hammer of Ancients, considering the high crit rate of your Barbarian, you are going to put some serious hurt on the enemy. But bash, okay, can only use either dual wield or bludgeoning weapons. This is why you need to keep your lunging strike and use your lunging strike until you max your two-handed expertise with the sword, because you cannot do it with bash. All right, so although bash is the crucial component of this build, you actually should not be using bash until you are confident until you've maxed out your expertise. Only then can you switch over to bash. So just keep that in mind and know that this is the way to build into the mid game and to go beyond that. Okay, and I know, again, I'm so sorry that this is a much longer video, but now that you understand all of this, okay, before we go to the combat demonstration, remember I mentioned that you kind of need a bit of gear with this? Okay, you're going to need one legendary aspect, which is Ancestral Force. Aspect of Ancestral Force. It allows you to use the Hammer of the Ancients to quake outward, dealing 48% of its damage to enemies. This is how you clear stuff late game, because while you focus on the elites, you can still smack down enemies around them. Draw the elites in, smack them down, and you can clear things a lot faster than if you, well, figuratively speaking, bash your head against the wall, okay? So I hope you understand this. This is absolutely crucial. Other legendaries that you can put in your rings are the basic skills, get attack speed. Again, the rapid aspect is available from dungeons. This Ancestral Force available from dungeons. This one I haven't customized yet, but you know, you can do whatever you want with this. The only other thing that I would recommend is the basic skills grant damage reduction, since you're always using your basic skills. All right, and that is about it. Now, now that you've understood pretty much everything about this build, I'm gonna move off to the combat clips. But first, let me thank the channel members, all the lovely people, for actually watching this video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you like my content, if you want to support my content. And if you can grab a membership, you know, I'd be really grateful for that. But again, I leave that choice to you because it does cost money. All right, starting right at the top, we've got Death Dawning 982 at Plus Ultra. We've got Jerry Fast, Rogue Assassin, Mr. Creampuff, and Zach NFG at Prestige. Thank you guys so much. These are my longest term members and, you know, some of my best supporters. Mookie Mocha, in terms of our honored robots, Mookie Mocha, Rena, the Mighty Zeno, Chase Taylor, Scuddy, Nathan Strong, Sabingu, AKJ, Lady Neo, Bob John, Joey Danze, A. Ripley, Darverse, Che D12, I'm Peep, Syed Assad, Tuan Nguyen, Coda CMF, Kami SMH, Conrad C, Nate the Great, Corey Ryu, and Benjamin Savage. Thank you guys so much. You guys are all amazing people. All right. And thank you to all of our cool and weird bots as well. Enjoy the combat demonstration, and I hope you have fun with the barbarian. Again, apologies for the long video. Okay? Enjoy the combat clips. Okay, what up, ladies and gents? Here's the combat demonstration for the barbarian. All right. As I mentioned before, your arsenal should be set to slicing weapons until you max out two-handed expertise. Okay? All right. So as I go through this, plain and simple, I basically start off any fight by using my Fury builders. Once my Fury is maxed, I hammer the ground. It's literally that simple. There is nothing complex about this. Okay? Max Fury, hammer. Enemy dies. Okay, the barbarian is very, very simple and straightforward. Now, when I need to build Fury quickly, I use my leap or my ground stomp, and I lay the smackdown on anyone that's a major threat. All right, if both are on cooldown, I use my rallying cry and I build up fast again. All right, this is legit how to play this particular style of barbarian. Now, eventually you are going to meet larger groups of enemies and elites, you know, and all of them. All right. When this happens, make good use of your evades. All right, and when you meet an elite, you can call down your ancients, which will allow you, thanks to their abilities, to build up Fury really quickly and lay a super smackdown, okay? The reason for this is that your Call of the Ancients ability will basically call 3 different ancients, and the guy with the dual weapons, Korlik, you gain 10 Fury every time he damages an enemy with his Frenzy, which is pretty freaking awesome, and that's literally how you build up Fury super fast to cast Hammer of the Ancients, especially in boss fights multiple times. Again, I will demonstrate this during the boss fight section. But as you can see, the Barbarian is simple, easy, and there is nothing like fancy or fantastic here. Like I said, as long as you have that one aspect which allows your Hammer of the Ancients to quake outward, you're pretty much okay. Alright, I'm playing a bit slower than normal, but you know, it's not difficult to just run your barbarian through dungeons very, very quickly. Now, I did get a shrine there, but you can see that it's a fast kind of experience. You get what I mean? Yeah? Okay, I'm going back to loot now. And Lunging Strike is also hilariously good for getting you in and out of combat. Well, into combat. It's not good for getting you out unless you target somebody else. But it's pretty good for getting you into combat. So in about like roughly 3 minutes, you know, you've covered like a fairly good distance, and there's only one more corpse gate left. Okay, maybe I'll show you an event at least so you guys can see. And then after that, we'll, as we always do the boss fight. Okay, so you have to clear waves of enemies. Now this one might seem a little more difficult than normal because you don't have a lot of AoE potential, but if you learn how to gather all your enemies up together, all right, I'll usually gather them all up and then go towards the range enemy and then lay the smackdown there. Okay, this might waste a bit of time, so it really depends on you whether you want to do that or not. If you feel that it's wasting too much time, then don't bother. Okay? Do what you have the time for. Don't have to worry about any other factors. And if something is going to die to bleed, sometimes it's worthwhile to just move on to another target. Which is how I sometimes do things. See? I knew the other guy was going to die of bleed, so I just left it be. There you go. And only cast your Hammer of the Ancients at Max Fury. Alright? It's crucial that you do that because otherwise you are literally wasting your Fury. There you go. All good.
Thank you, Wanderer.
Alright. The next clip will be the boss fight, so please look forward to that. Now I hope you understand how to play the Barbarian in general. Okay, we are now heading into the boss rooms so that I can show this fight to you. Alright, usually when the boss fight begins, I'll leap in, ground stomp, hammer the ancients, then go with my, I'll immediately go with my rallying cry so I can build up Fury fast. And notice that I managed to get several casts of Hammer of the Ancients off there. Yeah, this is because when the ancients are assisting you, alright, it's very easy to build up the fury, which is what you want to do. This is how you can nail the boss fights really, really quickly. Okay, get your rallying cry going again. Build up your fury in a couple of hits, bang, and then you're done. All right? So this is a great way to just ensure that battles end really, really quickly. Okay? So that's how to boss fight with the barbarian build. All right? Enjoy it, and I'll see you on the next one.